Here.
Dr. Handy, Dr. Linden,
Here.
Dr. Reese. Oh,
Here.
Dr. Handy is here. Dr. Reese.
I'm here.
So those are advisory members. They are all here. Now for Board of Regents, Chair Stevens.
Here.
Vice Chair Martin. Secretary Fletcher. Regent Bogard.
Here.
Regent Cox. Regent Finan.
Here.
Regent Girdler.
Here.
Regent Green.
Here.
Regent Hamilton.
Present.
Regent Herdink.
Here.
Regent Jackson.
Here.
Regent Rabinowitz.
She messaged that she probably wouldn't make it.
Okay. Regent Smith.
Here.
Regent Whitten.
We have 9 members.
Okay. We do not have a quorum. However, we can proceed if we do not take action.
No action is going to be taken today, to my knowledge, right, Dr. Zarapata?
Not to my knowledge.
All right.
Okay. All right, we'll proceed.
Sure. So unable to see if Chris Powers from Huron has joined us yet. Kalkadon, correct me if I'm wrong. Is there someone on your end that's going to be controlling this presentation?
Yes, I'll be sharing my screen, and I believe Chris has joined the meeting as well.
I'm here.
Perfect. If y'all could just take a few seconds and introduce yourselves to the board, that would be great.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I am Chris Powers. I am a manager within Huron's Higher Education Strategy and Operations Group. I've been with Huron about 8 years. During that time, I've worked with over 40 different institutions and a few systems of higher education. So I'm pretty well aware of the higher ed landscape, and my work has mostly been focused on what we call performance improvement, but it's diagnostic type work like we're doing here with KCTCS. So excited to bring my experience and knowledge to this project. Kalkadon?
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kalkidan Tafarra. I'm a senior associate here at Huron. I've been with Huron for about 8 months, and my background is primarily in compensation and HR projects. I've worked with many different institutions, both in higher ed and outside of higher ed, focused on salary administration, job architecture design, which is very similar to what we will be doing as part of the compensation and equity work stream. I will also be leading that work stream, as well as incentive compensation plans and system implementations. So look forward to working with KCTCS on this initiative.
Thank you very much. I know you all have a relatively brief PowerPoint slide deck. Please feel free to proceed with that unless anyone has any questions before we begin.
Great. Well, we're excited to meet with you all today. As you're aware, we started this project mostly in December, and that was really gathering data and kind of getting the project stood up. And then through January, this is when we've been starting our interviews, and we've also been more heavily involved in our data analysis. So admittedly, with where we're at in the project, we don't have a ton to share with you yet about findings and kind of where we're going, but we're happy to share kind of what we've been doing so far. I think our next report out in a month or so, we'll have a little bit more detail to share then, but happy to engage with you all and give you that update.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Like Chris just mentioned, we are in the information gathering phase. So what that includes is facilitating interviews, focus groups, hosting town halls, and analyzing the data. So as we all know, we kicked off this initiative in the month of December with the project initiation, and it consists of 4 work streams. the space utilization assessment, the academic programming optimization, and financial and organizational assessment. All 3 work streams will be taking place until the month of May and will be concluding in that month. The last work stream is the compensation and equity study, which will be taking place until the month of September. Now, based off of the findings and our recommendations, all of that will be incorporated as part of a final report, which will be provided to all of you at the end of September, beginning of October. So just a high-level project timeline of how these work streams will play out at KCTCS. So as an update so far, since the last time we met with all of you, Huron has conducted several qualitative and quantitative analysis. We have hosted 19 of 43 interviews with system and college leadership. We have also hosted 5 of 20 focus groups with KCTCS peer teams. A lot of the focus groups have also been scheduled this week and next week, so these numbers are going to continue to be updated. We have hosted 1 of the 17 system and college town halls that would be reaching a broader audience. And last, we have received and cataloged over 90 unique sets of data, primarily through the employee census report, and a lot of that work taking place in that academic programming work stream. So Chris, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for an update on upcoming meetings.
And I'm sorry, this is General Counsel Duncan. I would like to note that Regent Fletcher is on. We do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Oh, thanks. So yeah, we're actually, we have a team of 10 or so folks, and we've kind of been divvying up, and we're actually heading to Kentucky this week, next week, and the following week for some town halls on campuses. So we have a team that landed this morning in Louisville, and we'll be going to a few schools this week. We have a couple teams going next week and then the week after. So that's some of those town halls you saw there, and looking forward to meeting people and getting on campus. So that 1 of 17 will be updated in the next couple of weeks to all 17.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, Chris, this is Paul. There's one going on right now in Ashland.
Yep, I think that's why we put 1 of 17 to give ourselves credit.
Okay, got it.
We completed one this morning or early this afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, so as I said, we're still early on in this process, so we don't have a ton to share with you, but here's kind of what you can all expect from us over the next couple of meetings. So in a month or so, when we come back to meet with you, we plan to share some updates, some of the key takeaways from our optimization current state assessment. So through that, we'll include some qualitative information, quantitative information, and kind of a preview of where we see opportunities. Kalkadan will share an update as well about compensation and equity, some of those preliminary findings she and the team are finding through that analysis. As we keep going through the following meeting, which will be in March, we'll keep giving you updates about the comp and class and equity study, and we'll be much further along on that optimization assessment. We think we'll be able to give you much more information about what we see as opportunities, challenges, and things for you all to pursue on. And that kind of just continues around. We'll just keep sharing as much information as we have at the time through May. And then there'll be a whole swath of opportunities for you all to consider. At the end of that process, we'll think through what do you want to prioritize, which ones do you definitely want to implement, which ones do you want to kind of implement later on in the process, or maybe there are some that are just a little too far out of left field that you say you don't want to implement, which is pretty common. But hopefully we are able to give you some actionable recommendations, things that you all will want to act upon and implement and prioritize. And then, as Kalkadan said, the class and comp and equity study will go through the fall. So that will keep going on, and we'll make sure to keep you in the loop on that. So if you go on to the next slide, so we've had a number of interviews so far and a number of focus groups, and we just wanted to share just a couple themes of things that we're hearing so far, just to give you that highlight The first we wanted to say is that during every one of these focus groups and interviews, students come up all the time. That maybe is something that shouldn't be surprising, but as I've worked with, as I said, over 40 institutions and a number of state systems, that doesn't always happen. We meet with administrators and they feel so far removed from students, and they just are working with their administrative processes and tasks, and they kind of forget that they're working with students and that that's their main mission. That came up in all of our interviews. So kudos to you all for that. And I think that just really speaks volumes to the type of work you all are doing and your mission and all of that. Similarly, just overwhelming commitment to KCTCS. Everyone here talked about some of the challenges that you all have faced with turnover and COVID and all these things. So the people that are here are so dedicated and passionate about the work you're doing and the value you all bring, which brings to that middle point value proposition that came up over and over, and just linkage back to the community and the great work you're all doing for your local communities. I would say that this is where we're going to start to hint towards some of the things that we see as potential challenges and opportunities would be. We did hear some challenges with understanding the local community versus the system and the role of marketing and the role of the value of the system. This would come up in something like communication and marketing, and also maybe something within advancement or going after donors and gifts, and finding that right balance of what should happen locally, what should happen at the system, what should happen as a combined effort. So one thing on our radar is to just really figure out current state roles and responsibilities between different functions, local and system, and then understand where there maybe are challenges. So starting to highlight that here. We don't have any takeaways yet. We don't have any opportunities or anything, but just starting to hint towards that. The other two are both linked pretty closely, would just be the system-wide inconsistencies and maybe some lack of clarity on processes. I will say on the positive side, we did hear over and over again from the local units, that the local colleges, that they like to have that flexibility, that they like to be able to run autonomously on certain things. But on the flip side, they feel like there are just inconsistencies with processes, policies, procedures, and just how things play out. It's always a tough balancing act if you feel like the system starts making a ton of policies and starts driving certain things. The local colleges feel like they lose that power and they just become a cog in the wheel. And so people don't feel that way right now, but the downside of that is that things just feel a little inconsistent right now. So similar to roles and responsibilities and processes that I mentioned, we're going to want to also just dig into further understand where there may be challenges with things being done inconsistently, where colleges, local colleges should have some flexibility to make decisions and run with things versus where things should be done a little bit more consistently across all 16 campuses. Again, we don't have an answer on what that might be right now, but that's going to be some things that we're going to want to highlight through this process. So that's just some of the things we're starting to hear. We'll continue to share those highlights as we have more interviews. We're also, as I said, having town halls and we'll be on campus. So we'll continue to share that information. Any questions on what I just shared? I saw a lot of nodding along, which hopefully means it's resonating, but would love to hear if anyone had any questions or concerns or anything we're sharing there.
I have a little bit of a concern. This is Regent Fletcher on the system-wide inconsistencies conversation, because once again, we're hearing through some folks in the legislature about, conversations regarding organization structure and that local level of control, all of those sort of things. So I do encourage you to really tease that out and bring us back some solid data that we can use, in order to be able to have better conversations at the legislative level about that.
For sure. I admit that these bullet points are fairly broad because we're not locked in on exactly what we see there, but we will be more specific in the future.
We want to be sensitive as a board to the concerns from the local level, but at the same time, we're looking for ways to optimize and, I guess, not just optimize, but to add value to what is being rendered from the system, going outward to the colleges, but also be able to take off some of the burden that they feel locally with things that they maybe don't have enough resources for. You know, and then the higher level functions that do take consistencies to run appropriately, things like, you know, the financial aid, the management of, you know, the budgets and things like that at that coming from the system office. You know, I think sometimes when they want to be independent, they're independent. And when they don't want to take it on, oh, well, now we're a system. And that's one of the things that has been my goal through all of this, is just trying to make sure those lines are a little better defined, not just for us as a board, but for anyone looking at the system, anyone working within the system, students. You know, we want to make sure that things are the same across the board. When you have 16 different colleges, it's really hard to get consistency if everyone's doing it their way. There are some local nuances that probably need to be allowed to continue as everyone doing it their way. But there are a lot of things where we just need to clean it up and say, this is the way, you know, our system works. This is the policy we're applying across the board. And I know that's going to get really teased out when you do the compensation and the equity portion of this study, because, you know, we have lots of folks doing similar jobs with different titles and such. That's going to get teased out there, but I'm talking even higher level than that. I just want to know that we are being fair to everyone across the system, that everyone has the same opportunities across the system, that students are being treated, you know, the same, or not treated, but, you know, that they have the same opportunities across the board. So I really like that you're digging into that. And I hope that the next meeting we do have a little more detail there. Very important, especially I think from the legislative standpoint.
I couldn't agree more, and I think the more granular we can get in those recommendations, the better off we're going to be.
Yes. We for sure have more granularity to provide. Just comes with time.
I have a question for you, Chairman Stevens. Basically, you have 2 more presentations before the March board meeting. And so I would hope that what you can wrap up or get close to wrapping up and make some recommendations. So as we go through this process, before we make any decision, we have ample information as well as opportunity with the board to discuss these issues and any changes we might need to make. Same way for the March meeting, the June meeting. Then I would say, and I know the contract is supposed to be completed or most of the information by September, but, you know, I would also like for you to look at, we're in a preparation at the next board meeting of setting we have some tentative dates for September, but if you think the report could come back earlier than that for all of your report, please let Dr. Zarapata know, because as I said, our goal is to do things better and more efficient and take some of the burden off of our community colleges. But we need ample opportunity as the data comes in to have time as a board to discuss these. And in a lot of instances, we may need clarification from you all about what the data shows. So if you could do that, I certainly would appreciate it. And, you know, our goal is to make the system better and to look forward to everyone having a voice and inclusion in that. And I would say this to reference to Regent Fletcher, we want to take some of the burden off of the local 16 community colleges. We do not want to add more work for them. We want to help them to become more efficient and more productive and their needs. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for that.
Looks like Patsy
Karen?
has. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think Regent Finan was before me, Dr. Zarapata. I'll go after
Oh.
her.
Okay, thank you. Two questions, and I'll ask them in succession. Are you getting all the support that you need, the background information, a path forward as you go into the different community colleges and from the system? That's question one. And then number two, you mentioned report recommendations, and this, James Lee referenced this. I'd be interested in a more comprehensive report before we get a lot of different recommendations so that we're able to see them in priority order. And so can you speak to what that looks like as you move along the way? Because I'd be a little bit concerned if we, start to get batches of recommendations without seeing this in its entirety.
Yeah. So first I'll say that we have received everything, all the support we need, and feel very confident in that. And President Zarapata and his team have been very responsive in getting us all the data, scheduling meetings and all of that, and giving us context and all that. So we feel very confident there.
Great.
The second that I would say is the way that these normally play out is that we kind of try to highlight as many, we call them just opportunities for now, where we say, this looks like a challenge, this looks like something you could do differently, and we'll outline as many opportunities as we possibly can. And then through a prioritization process, we'll kind of narrow down from that into what we'd call recommendations. So I did say recommendations, but I think it kind of funnels through from here's anything and everything that may potentially be an opportunity all the way through to recommendations, and we'll work with you all on how we prioritize that. And that could be, do we want to prioritize things that are operational efficiency, cost savings, things that are easy to do versus hard to do, small wins, quick wins versus larger, more transformational things. And that's not a one size fits all. There's going to be kind of a basket of goods that you'll kind of pick, if I can use that phrase.
So that comes as part of a comprehensive report back versus fragmented recommendations. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It'll go
Okay.
kind of through the process. There'll be one meeting where we talk about all the different opportunities. We'll work through what prioritization might look like, and then eventually you'll, on the back end, see kind of the prioritized recommendations.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And that's
And
going to
just
be across all the different work streams. So you'll see opportunities within space, opportunities within academic portfolio, all the way down the list.
Yeah, and just to add to that, specific to the comp and class work stream as well, there will be, just similar to what Chris just said, opportunities throughout to be able to make some decisions. So one of the initial conversations we'll be having in an upcoming meeting is the compensation philosophy and how the institution wants to represent the compensation program. So based off of those early decisions and discussions, that will help us be able to build out the rest of the program, the compensation program. So as part of that recommendation at the very end, it will incorporate a lot of the discussions that we will have in upcoming meetings.
Patsy?
Also, in reference to your town hall meetings, will you post those on the Huron report, that the questions asked and what people are most concerned about?
I don't know exactly the way that we're going to document that, but we'll definitely be taking notes throughout that whole process, and we can figure out what makes sense with sharing that. The town halls are also all being recorded, which is another feature for people to, if they're curious as well.
Yeah, and those,
Thank you.
as they're recorded, they'll be uploaded to the main project site, as will these meetings.
Chris, if I
Oh.
may ask my question, and it sort of feeds off of what our chair just shared. That's kind of my question, and if I've overlooked it, you can direct me where to find it. I very well may have, and I apologize if that's the case. But in these various interviews, you talked about it being more of a qualitative approach to that, which I think is very valuable. However, I would like to know if there will be quantifiable data associated with these. For example, how many people are you seeing? What is the distribution of the participants? Are you using standardized questions to ensure that each of these interviews are sort of comparable across the various colleges so that we're not just like scatter plotting and kind of shooting in the dark? Because I think
Yeah.
the foundation of the information is extremely important, particularly if it's going to drive either small or large changes in the institution. Will there be more data like that and more specific structure things that we can look at so we can evaluate this as it goes through the process?
Yeah, so we have a pretty standardized interview guide that we've been using for all of our one-on-one interviews, and then we have a similar one for focus groups. Then the one thing that we do is we tailor it to who we're meeting with or what groups we're meeting with. So we're asking for the marketing group, marketing specific questions, or for the advancement group, advancement specific questions. They all will follow a pretty similar structure because we have that same outline for interviews or focus groups, but each question is definitely not the same and they're tailored to the group. And we probably won't have, from those, we'll have much more qualitative information and less quantitative information. But in the background, what we're doing is a bunch of data analysis of across each of the different work streams, which is where we're plugging in the quantitative element to this. And then we also have just Huron's expertise and Huron's experience across the nation with other systems and colleges, and kind of they all will converge together. The quantitative, the qualitative, the experience, and all that converge into where the opportunities are identified.
Yeah, because I think that's really going to be important to look at the volume of people and where you are seeing them. You know, if you have 10 people interviewed at one college and you have 100 people interviewed at another college, that's much different. You know, you can say I've interviewed at 2 colleges, but really to kind of look at, is it comparable? You see what I'm saying with the input that we're receiving. So that's kind of what I'm curious to see for that consistency, if that'll be available.
Let's see. Someone else has got their hand up, but I can't see it.
Looks like it's Regent Fletcher.
Please.
So I found it curious, and I'm hoping it's because we did such a good job at vetting during the process of choosing Huron to do this project, but I didn't see on any of those focus groups or any of those town hall groups or anything like that, that any of the Board of Regents was invited to participate in any of that. Have you come to any, is there anything that you need from us that you don't have, I guess is what I need to ask.
It probably makes sense for us to do a few interviews with you all or some type of data gathering information. I am not positive if anything like that's been scheduled or planned, but I can follow up with our project manager that's been doing the day-to-day of that. That is something we can reach out to you all for.
So you feel pretty clear on what it is that we're looking for and what we have asked for through the RFP process, I guess is what I'm asking.
I think our team does, and we've been meeting with Dr. Sarapata at least weekly or with emails daily. So I feel like we are driving in a aligned direction. But Dr. Zarapata, I would appreciate if you had any thoughts there.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And that certainly we can talk to Veronica, who is the project manager, to set those up. They felt like they had a pretty good direction based on the RFP conversations and in those meetings beforehand of what the board was looking for, but it probably wouldn't hurt to do some validation to make sure that what they're doing is what was construed. So.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Barry. I really think that they need to just focus on, I mean, they're getting a lot of time with us. They need to focus their time on out there gathering the information that we can't gather. They're getting direction from us from various sources. I think they ought to spend more time out in the field. That's just my recommendation.
Thank you, Barry. Are there any other questions? Oh, Joe, here, Dick.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, I did participate in one of the meetings already with the IT peer team, and I thought that was really great. It was very professional. The person doing it was kept us contained, and we got to do a lot of good conversations. A lot of it focused a lot on compensation was one of our big themes on that one. But I thought it was getting a lot of IT people to talk is a really hard problem, and they did a really good job of getting all those IT directors to actually speak and say things and give their 2 cents. So kudos on that.
Thank you for that.
Dr. Serapata, would it be possible to hear from some of the college presidents on the line in terms of how they think the process is going?
Absolutely. I know that Ty and Fernando and Anton are on. I'm not sure about Jennifer.
Yes, she is.
Okay,
I'm
Jennifer.
here.
Good. Does anyone want to speak?
Yeah, this is Ty. I'll simply say that because we haven't had our town hall meeting and stuff yet, I can't give a lot of feedback, but I've been pleased with the interaction personally with me so far. So I think we're just so early in the process that's the base we'll need to touch in a few weeks.
Yeah, this is Fernando. We have our town hall tomorrow, and then my individual meeting with them and our provost and our chief business officer. So we'll get a better feel for that as well. But I think some of the feedback I've gotten from the peer teams is that, you know, I think the questions are appropriate. There's been some sense that it's not delving deep enough. So I'll get a better sense from my folks that have been involved in that and give you guys some feedback tomorrow.
Fernando, how many people do you have attending the town hall? Do you have any idea?
I'm not sure the number yet.
Okay.
Same here.
Thanks for that feedback.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say thank you for that feedback, and the comment about digging deeper is very common at this phase of the project. We're really just trying to cast a wide net, and then as we realize which areas to dig deeper in, we will oftentimes schedule follow-up focus groups or interviews to then dig in deeper, or we'll ask for additional data that we haven't already gathered. So very natural to hear that at this phase. If you hear that a month or 2 months from now, we'll want to address that. But for right now, I think that is good to know.
Yeah, and I think that may be something to mention at our town hall is the idea that you're capturing themes and then there'll be, you know, more deeper dives going forward.
Yep.
And Karen, we have about 85 listed right now.
Thank you. Is that a combination of all audiences?
Faculty and staff.
Faculty and staff? Okay. Thank you.
Dr. London, did you have a comment?
Sure. I don't know that I have a lot to add. I was just going to state that we have our town hall and my individual meeting scheduled next week. So we still have people accepting their invites and so forth. I don't have a quite good of a sense of how many people we have just yet, but everyone who has participated on the peer team meetings has been very pleased with how things went. I had a couple of staff who were a little apprehensive naturally going into it, not quite sure what to expect, but they came back and told me, you know, I enjoyed that and felt like I was heard and really felt like quite a bit was able to be accomplished in that short amount of time. So I've had positive feedback so far.
Great.
Yeah, likewise, I would echo everything my colleagues have mentioned. Ours is the 30th. So I guess in about 13 days. The feedback that I've gotten has been, again, primarily through the peer groups. And so, you know, some of the comments I've heard too is, you know, hearing from peers basically, you know, responding in the same time as a group. They found that very beneficial. They weren't sure where the questions were going initially. I think everyone assumed it was going to be strictly like space, you know, bandwidth, capacity with the IT people and, you know, M&O, how many buildings, but it seems as though that the questions are more comprehensive and looking just beyond just the mechanics. So I think that's been good. You know, the only suggestion again without seeing the town hall and the flow. I don't know if it works. It will be great. I'm assuming that the presidents will be facilitating the town halls. If we get an idea what those questions may be looking like, right? I mean, I kind of, it helps, right? I mean, we've been promoting it.
Yeah.
We promoted the town hall really since our kickoff. I think we'll have a great turnout. I just want to be sure by where the questions, and sometimes the nature of questions determine sometimes who speaks the most, right? A little bit to what Dr. Jackson was mentioning, that you don't want a case where not only you got a small number, but if 100 people show up and there are 90 faculty, 10 staff, or 90 staff, 10 faculty, you probably get two different responses. So I think that breakdown to some on some capacity will be great. But looking forward to the visit certainly here.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, and I'd just like to chime in. As somebody mentioned, I have been on a daily cadence with somebody at some given point all through this project. So I've been very pleased with the quick turnaround. I've been super pleased with all the support that I've gotten from Cindy and Amy and Buddy and all the poor people that had to get this data together in a very short period of time. All that data is being tracked. The weekly status reports that come out are being uploaded to that Huron project site, so stay tuned with that. And as some of these larger reports come out, I will certainly let the board know that these are out there.
I'd like to remind the 4 college presidents, the next report from Huron is the 21st. Other than Huron's report, I would assume that the 4 of you need to have your notes and be ready to go, because there's going to be a lot of questions of how things went and how that we need, if there's any improvements, any suggestions and ideas. So as chairman, I'm looking to the 4 of you to help guide us through this process.
And Regent Martin, do you have a question, or is your hand remaining up?
I apologize. I need to lower it.
No worries. No worries at all. Just want to make sure you are.
I apologize.
No worries. Just get it good and stretched out.
Yeah, I was having a cramp. Sorry.
I think we just have one more slide we wanted to go over, but really appreciate everyone's color commentary there. We thought this might just be a quick presentation, but all the additional context has been really helpful. So
real quick, if you don't mind, I want to say thanks to the presidents and all the staff that's taken part of this. I know it's extra work and extra time, but we really appreciate this. This is going to be a valuable piece of information for everybody involved. And on behalf of the Board of Regents, I want to say thanks for sure.
We know it'll be a long.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
just go ahead and make them aware of that. Yeah.
So Huron's next step is getting the compensation and equity study committee kicked off and running. We've been kind of setting that work stream up in the background and getting the data we need. We'll get rolling with that in the next week or so. As I mentioned, we have town halls this week, next week, and the following week. While we're there, we're also meeting with presidents, provosts, chief business officers, CFOs, and a few other cabinet level positions at each of the colleges and the system office. We're continuing to do our data analysis. We're really getting our arms around that over the last couple of weeks and looking forward to making strides over the next couple of weeks. And then by our meeting in a month or so, that is when we really want to have a good understanding of the current state. So we started to share some key themes that we're seeing. In a month or so, we really just want to have our arms wrapped around the current state, what people see as challenges, what things are going well, the roles and responsibilities and things like that I had mentioned across each of those work streams. So that's kind of what our next month or so looks like. And we'll be back to share a readout of that.
I know Dr. Zarapata sent all the board members a list of the town halls. I would encourage you, if one is in your area, please to attend. If you can't find that, if you'll call Cindy or Amy one, they'll give you those dates again. But I certainly would encourage you to, if you can, to attend one or more of those town halls and to look at the process and see how it's being conducted. Dr. Sarapata.
That's all I have. If there's no further questions, I think we're wrapped
So
up.
we do have a quorum. Now almost every member is here, so if we could have a motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn
I'll make
So
a motion
moved.
to adjourn.
till the February the 21st?
Right, and by consensus,
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.